Hi, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and tonight I'm just in the mood to play a little bit with tarot cards. So I thought I would show you what I've been working on of late. This is, by the way, the gorgeous Fountain Tarot, which I am absolutely in love with. And the truth of the matter is, if right now I had to pick one deck that I could only have for the rest of my life, it would be this deck, which is quite shocking and surprising to me, but that is the truth. Be that as may, the point of this is more to look at this particular spread, in which I'm quite loving. I have seen this this setup of a spread on many images on Instagram and other places like that. I think because of the way that it's set up, you can get quite a lot of cards in a small space, both in terms of taking a photograph of it, as well as in terms of a reading. You don't need a big space, you know, where with a Celtic cross or something, it's going up off of that. Even my own story tree, same thing, it kind of goes up a little bit too high. Where this right now, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then what I do, I hadn't finished this yet, but then I also pull the kind of shadow card there, and then I also usually end up pulling an action card like that. I'm going to go over this in just a minute, but that tends to be the total. So we're looking at, what did I say? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards, which is the size of my story tree, I think, ish, and around the size of a Celtic cross. So you're able to, in a relatively small space, get a lot of cards on the table, which I'm really quite loving. And but I didn't know, I'm going to move this over here for right now. I didn't quite know, you know, when I've, like I said, I've seen many pictures, but they were generally just pictures of cards. They weren't going over the spreads. So I had no clue, like, what the positions were. But I have very particular positions that I want to have in a spread. Now, I am fond of large spreads. I will say I do a lot of 3 and 4 card readings now for myself and just for quick things, and I enjoy them. But I am at heart a larger spread woman. I read with the Celtic cross forever. I love the I know some people don't love it, but I do love the Celtic cross. I really just went away from it because there were certain positions that I really wanted that weren't in the Celtic cross, and so I kind of branched out trying to find exactly what I want. And I feel like now I'm at a stage where I really do know what I want in a larger spread, and I do like larger spreads. Like, I do think that's probably why I like Lenormand and why I don't tend to do small Lenormand spreads. I like the Grand Tableau because you have this, you know, this whole array of information, and then kind of seeing how things fit together and how the suits show up and how, you know, elements show up and different aspects show up. I love that about readings, and so I am definitely one. And I do apologize, as always, for Isabel. She is quite rambunctious tonight. But what can you do? If I lock her up, she will bark. So anyways, so this is kind of just this look at this spread that I have been quite enjoying. I am sure there may be exact positions that are supposed to go with this, but I don't think so. I mean, like I said, I've seen this in a variety of different places with people putting different things on it. So I just kind of laid the cards out in the configuration, and then it, you know, really pops for me what the cards should be. So this is also kind of a look at what I find essential in a card reading, especially a larger card reading. So the first thing that's essential for me in a card reading is a past, present, and future. Just like for a Lenormand reading, where the whole board is split between past, present, and future, I really do think that's quite important, because I like that the past sort of grounds us, and the present gives us a look at where we are, obviously, and then the possible future kind of gives us that idea as if nothing changes right now. This is kind of where things are going, so that if we want to change something in our present line in order to change the future, we can kind of have a heads up about that. So it just sort of gives us that linear, you know, if things stay as they are, this is kind of where we're heading. So I quite like that. So I use that for this is the past, present, and future. And then the other thing that is for me is essential in a reading anymore is the 4 elements. So for me, I have air and fire and earth and water in these 4 positions here. And then in these 2 positions, I have these kind of, one of the things that I quite learned with Lenormand, and I know that people do this in tarot readings as well, but I think maybe I wasn't as comfortable flowing in and out of it, but is that idea that positions can be more than one thing, depending on how you're looking at it. So I kind of think about the unconscious and sort of the super conscious, or that sort of higher message, something that's connected to the universal unconscious, or that type of idea. But I also think of this as a weakness that might need to be lifted up, and this is also a strength that we have, that we can bring to the table in a particular situation, because I really like having a weakness and a strength card, because we all have weaknesses, especially in a present moment. It can be different, depending on where we are, but in this present moment, what is this thing that needs to be bolstered up, that needs to be pulled up, that needs to be pulled out of the unconscious perhaps, and given focus? And then what is our strength? What is there something that is higher than ourselves that we can draw on? So I quite like having those positions. And then the other position that I have, that I will often wait until I've done a reading to kind of go there, is that sense of sometimes when we're doing a reading, especially a large reading, there's a lot of information that's being given, which is great. But sometimes a person, if they've come to a reading generally because they're overwhelmed, there's certain things going, again, as I've said before, a lot of times people aren't coming to a reading because everything is wonderful. And so if you're in that state where things aren't going well, you've lost your job, or things aren't feeling quite right, and you need to get back on the right track, sometimes then you get all this information, and it's great and it's helpful information, but you're still left with that question, like, okay, but what do I do? What do I do right now? And so I do always like there to be an action card. So I don't really, I put this here, but I don't really think of this as a crosses. I think of this more, this is like, okay, what's the next step? What is the first step that we can take? Because I really do firmly believe that action begets action, and it creates its own energy. And so whatever we can take a step, even if it's just a little step forward, it starts to create forward motion. And so it doesn't have to be a big step. Maybe it's just a little piece of a step that's going to get us to the bigger step. But making some kind of step forward can be very much bring us forward and bring that forward motion that we might need in our lives. And so I'd like to have an action card there. And then this card, I've been doing this card lately, sometimes instead of pulling an oracle card, because I often pull an oracle card at the end of a reading, just as sort of what is an affirmative message? What is there some message that really needs to be gotten across? I like oracle cards because they are generally affirming. They are also generally uplifting and positive, and give us, sort of that nurturing that we might need in the moment, that I quite like. But I also have really found the idea of a shadow card, which would be something that you would take. So let's say you have, well, I'm going to walk through it. So we'll do that when I walk through the reading. But it's the bottom of the deck. So there's 2 ways that I tend to get them, which isn't technically probably correct, but we all find our ways of doing things. But it's basically the bottom card. So what's at the very bottom of the deck that has something to tell us. And so I've been quite liking that sometimes instead of an oracle card, because there's quite interesting messages that do come up that way. So this is kind of the spread that I've really been enjoying, and I thought I would share it just because it also shows the positions. Again, when I saw this, I'm like, I love the look of it. I love the compactness, but I had no clue what the the positions were. So when I just kind of laid it out to do it, it kind of clicked right into place, like, oh yeah, this is how I'm gonna use it. And so I'm sure there are other people who use it that way as well, but that's just how I use it. So you can kind of get a look at also what positions in tarot are important to me. So we'll pull these up now. And so we're going to do a little bit of a reading. And again, I'm not going to go in depth because I don't want this to be horribly long as happens to my videos. But just kind of a look for a video for someone who is just feeling stuck. It's not that there is anything specifically or majorly. I mean, there are a couple little things, but there's nothing really majorly there. But just energetically, everything just isn't feeling, things just aren't feeling quite right. It's not feeling like there's any forward motion, just kind of that. I get quite actually a lot of, there are many readings for people that are just needing to be unblocked. I need to set up a specific reading option for that, because that comes up a lot where people are just really kind of feeling blocked. So what I do generally, I decided to also, since I'm doing this anyways, a quick little what do I do. So when somebody gets a reading from me, I always request their birth date, and for the most part, people are happy to give it to me. And with their birth date, I will get their I'll calculate their life path number and get their birth card. And so that just gives me some information. And then, of course, I have the information that has been given in any communication that I've had with the client. And so what I do is as I'm setting things up, like setting the table up and getting, I usually, get a candles out, because sometimes, depending on the reading, I might want to do crystals, just lay some crystals down. Sometimes I lay things that are, I have a couple items that were my grandfather's and my great-great-grandmother's and things like that. I just I feel ties me to the past depending on what the question is. So I'll kind of start gathering those things up. And what I'll do is I literally am walking around the room and I'm shuffling the cards, doing kind of the overhand shuffle. And I'll just talk to myself. I'll talk to myself about what I know about the person, that this person, is because of their life path number and their birth card. I know that they are very much an order people. They like things to be in balance. And so for somebody like that, even it's going to be even more difficult when things aren't in balance. And so it's going to cause them much more stress, and it's going to feed on itself. And, they're really feeling stuck. And I'll just kind of really walk through any information that I know, sometimes over and over again, just as I'm kind of walking around. And then when I'm, kind of feel, all right, I kind of feel like all right, I know what's going on. Then I usually will do, and again, everybody has their own little quirks, and I still have not mastered the tripod shuffle. But then I generally do 3 rifle shuffles, just because 3 is my number. I don't know, just because I'm, I say that I'm not superstitious, and I'm not. Like I could do a reading and not do it, but I do tend to end up doing 3 shuffles, and then I will generally do one more kind of quick mix like that. And then to split the deck, I don't tend to cut a deck, like this. I tend to do 1 or 2 things. I'll kind of go like this through until I kind of feel a zip to it, and that's where I'll split it. Or a lot of times, and it depends on the deck itself how well it does that, but I'll kind of let things, this one isn't as much, but I'll kind of let it slip to where it feels like it should. And again, I generally have a pretty good zing feeling of what it might be. So then I will start dealing, and I will do all the cards from the top, except for that I will pull, if I'm going to use a shadow card, I will pull from the bottom of the deck. And here we have the Queen of Swords. So I'll put that aside because I don't really address that till later, but I do pull it because then I like to restack my cards. Okay, so then I do the center. And the strength. Oops. I don't do reversals. I think I might have shuffled these so that they got mixed up. Generally, I keep my decks so that all the cards are facing, and I shuffle them so that they come up facing correctly, because I don't use reversals. I kind of do that within the position itself, and I also boy, we got a lot of or not a lot, but we've got 3 majors right there. I do the past, and I do the future. So I kind of do that. I don't pull the action card. Generally, I don't pull the action card yet because I want to lay it here, and then it's blocking things, and I generally need, you know, take pictures and that kind of stuff before, you know, I tend to lay everything down. I'll take a couple pictures like this, then I'll pull the action card and lay that down and take a picture there. If I'm going to do, you know, I'll get all my pictures done, and then I will, you know, start to do the, you know, start typing things up as I go into a reading. So the first thing I tend to look at is that past, present, and future. And cards, I tend to start there and kind of touch bases there. And this certainly is interesting because we do have that sense of joy that we get. And I'm not going to do a deep reading because that would take way too long, especially with the size of a spread for me. But I'm just going to kind of quickly just kind of touch on things. Just so, you know, I can see this sense of, you know, she did have that sense of happiness and celebration. You know, this card, we have everybody on the beach, and there's just that wonderful feeling of celebration that you get with the Four of Wands. And that is where she was, and she's not there now, but she really, her whole focus is she wants to get back there. And I kind of get that sense with the Eight of Wands. You know, the Eight of Wands is that forward motion and that really going, you can just see with this card. I really do love this card because you just get that sense of it kind of narrowing in, and that's really what she wants. She really wants to focus in on getting things back to where she is, or where she was, which is that sense. This is where she heard her, I guess her normal state is more being in peace and being happy. You know, that's just kind of her normal self, and she's really not feeling that right now. And so her focus is really focused in on getting there. But we have in the current future position, we have the Five of Wands, which often can have to do with strife. You know, fives can often have to do with strife and discord. But the Five of Wands, I am going to take a quick peek here because I haven't worked a lot with the Fountain Tarot, and so sometimes with a new deck, I do try to kind of skim if something pops up, just to make sure that they haven't changed something to do with the card. But yeah, it's about stress and tension. Yeah, sort of that tangle of energy in an unstable situation. So yeah, so that's, you know, so we kind of get that feeling like if things stay as they are, which is, this is how I view the future card, right? That if things stay on the course that she's going on, you know, she's definitely not heading into a stable place. She's not feeling stable right now, and she's definitely not heading into a stable place. So that certainly fits with her possible future, which tells us something does need to change here. Now, I do feel like this card also, this is the present card, and we do have that honing in and that sense of moving and trying to move forward, because I always feel like with these kinds of readings, you know, when somebody comes and says, you know, I'm really feeling blocked, I'm really feeling stagnant, you know, I just feel like things just aren't right. So when they come to a reading like that, one of the first things I tell them is that you already have taken the first step, right? You're trying to find your way out of it. You're asking for a reading. You're saying, you know, okay, let's work through this and let's, you know, get our way out. So there already is some forward motion being built into the situation because she's taking those steps. But we need to kind of really get at the root of, she just doesn't even know really what direction. Her focus is on creating forward motion and getting back into a sense of balance. But she just has that sense of, I really don't know where it's coming from and what I need to do to move forward, but I want to move forward. So we have that sense there. I kind of leave these two oftentimes for last, and I kind of look at the elements. So we have, again, up here is going to be air and fire and earth and water. You know, she has some positive cards in, in her elements. So we have the 9 of coins in her air, position of air. So air is your intellect, your mind, your communication, all those kinds of things that are going on. And we have the 9 of coins. And the 9 of coins is certainly when we get to our nines, and again, I'm doing a quick little, so you can see, this is what I do with a new deck. When I'm doing decks that I'm comfortable with, obviously, I just kind of wing it and go with it. But I do like to see if I'm getting used to a new deck, because there are sometimes little subtle differences, which I have found some in the Fountain Tarot. So I want to make sure, I want to learn the nuances of the deck. And so, yeah, so this has that sense of what a 9 of coins is. That sense, life is beautiful, life is good. There's that sense of accomplishment, and that is the case, especially intellectually, where she's at. Sort of in that realm, things are going really well. And that is part of the problem. I mean, part of the problem is it feels like things are going well. But it's just, it's just not quite right. So then over here in the fire, we have the Magician. Fire is a transformative energy, and here we have the Magician, who is, kind of taking the things that he needs from the outside world and bringing it and manifesting it into the physical world. So this could be a message, and this does kind of click for me on, again, something that she told me that was kind of in the workings, or she was thinking about. And this sort of does give me that sense of, okay, the mental game is good, right? Everything's good with the mental game. You're feeling pretty solid. Life is good there. She's on target with sort of her planning and this sort of thing. But this card here may be telling us, okay, it's time to pull some of that stuff out of the mental realm. And even the creative juices, the fire suit is all about our creativity and what we're passionate about. But if it just stays up in our mind and being our passion, at some point we actually need to pull it into the physical world and do something with it, physically do something. That's really what I'm thinking might be the key there, is that sense that it's time to pull stuff out of the air, out of the mind, out of even the spirit, and all the things that are driving us inwardly, but it's time to pull it out and make it a physical reality. So I really think that's a strong message there for her. In the earth, we have the Fool card, and I do think this is actually, and it kind of ties hand in hand in a way with this one. If you think about the Pentacle suit, that is our stability and our structure, which is all good things, but sometimes when things are going right, everything's comfortable, right? There's that sense of, we don't want to really take that leap because we're comfortable. And what it kind of reminds me of sort of the idea of the fours, the suit of fours, is that sort of sense that things can be comfortable, but they're right on that edge of where it can go stagnant. And so there is that sense of, if things are all good, that's well and good, but it stops us sometimes from taking those leaps, which would definitely tie into pulling things and out of the mind and out of the passions, and start to physically doing some things that she has sort of on the back burner, or has been thinking about doing, that it may be time to stop thinking and start doing. It may be time to stop resting. It was good for a while to rest in the stability and things being stable and things being good financially and all that kind of stuff. But now, we may be time to take a fresh leap. It's a new beginning. It's time to kind of take a leap forward and take the next step and physically manifest those things that you are thinking about and have been working a lot in your mental space on. So definitely get that message there. And then again, and I'm not going to go too deep here, but I'm trying to move it along. But then we have the Lover's card in the position of water. And so that's quite a beautiful card. This definitely is an affirmation. relationships are going, and this was, discussed, relationships are going very well. She was kind of worried that this sense of unease or whatever, surrounded, that maybe there's things just, she felt like everything was right, but maybe things weren't all right, or that was something, this card showing up in the position of the, of water just gives that sense that everything is okay. Like you make to me, the Lover's card is about making a choice, which she definitely has done, and has a beautiful relationship. And so we don't want to start second guessing our choices. When we make a choice, don't, and things are going good, just roll with it. We don't want to second guess. That's kind of getting too much into which she definitely is a swordsy person. We don't want to get too much into our head where we start to overthink things. If things were right, when you're making all these decisions and things were right then, as long as obviously there's nothing new has happened, which it hasn't, we don't want to second guess the good things. It's kind of that balancing game, and that's why this is a difficult place to be in, because that's that balancing game that you don't want to stagnate when things are good and just let things ride so long that it becomes stagnated. So you do want to keep touching bases, but you also don't want to go so far as that you're continually overthinking things. So there's that sort of balance there. So I'm really seeing that sense of that things really are good right now, where the things really are in a place that's good, but it's time to maybe take another leap, sort of manifest out, and start to manifest those dreams and those things that you've been planning. It's time to start making some forward motion with those things in that particular direction. So I think that is definitely the case. I'm going to keep moving. So then I would look over here to say, okay, what is some weakness and maybe something that needs to kind of touch bases on, to be aware of, so that you can bolster it. And I think that is really what I've kind of already touched on. So the ace of, for me, aces are sort of that core, that seed of a particular suit, right? It's that seed, the potential of a suit. And so this is being a swords. I do think she's kind of got herself into a period of overthinking, that she is very much a swords person, very similar to myself. And so I think that there is some overthinking that's going on. So sometimes your strength can become your weakness when it, again, as in anything, when it goes out of balance, when we get too much excess, like we were talking about in the card comparison series about the Lover's card. Things can be a strength and at the same time turn into a detriment if we let them sort of get out of skew. And I think right now the mental aspects are getting askew. And then we have, I should have been lifting these up, but then we have the beautiful Six of Wands up here in her strength, which I think is quite beautiful, that we have sort of the swords and the wand, because I think those are in many ways her strength, because she is so mental, but at the same time she has a great deal of passion. She just needs to start bringing it forward and into reality and start actually doing something. And it's interesting, because I was just looking this up, because I thought I really like the Fountain Tarot's little core things that they have. I really do like those quite a lot. And it's the final push. It's that sort of but her strength, she really does, it's kind of like not being unstoppable. It's being, okay, it's time to push forward to this new challenge. And it is tiring and it exacts a toll, but you can push forward. You always have that extra energy burst. And that is certainly would be one of her strengths, is that ability to push forward. So I think maybe that sense of, because she's had this kind of almost like a lull where things have been good and easy and there really hasn't been a lot of pushing forward and stuff, I think it's made her uneasy, because her personality type is to be pushing forward. And so this good period that she's been in, which is great, but this good period that she's been in has kind of made her uneasy, because this is her personality, is the mind, getting things thinking, and then pulling that and pushing it forward and actually acting and doing. And she hasn't been doing a lot of the acting and the doing of late, because she's been enjoying a period of rest, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, you wait, too long, it starts to become stagnant. And I think she's on that edge there. And so she needs to, manifest her strength, manifest her things forward so that we cannot, head in this direction. Because if it just stays the way things are, she's just going to snowball, and we're going to start, and we're already starting to see that sense of it can snowball into anxiety and conflict and stuff. And this is not the direction that she wants to go in, which means that we change what's in the present, right? Because the person has the control. Especially in the context of what we're doing. Do we have control over everything in our life? No. But in the context of what we're discussing, I firmly believe that the future, as much as is possible, is in the person's hands. And by seeing what's in the future and seeing, okay, if we don't do anything, this is kind of where we're heading. So then that gives us what we need to know to change now so that we don't have to go to that position. So that would be how I would kind of read that. And then when we look at the, but see, look at her, that's why I'm saying it's both her strength and her weakness. Because here we have her shadow card, that's sort of the essence card, that's sort of what's deep down in there that we need to know. And she is the Queen of Swords. Like, this is her strength. Her strength is in the Queen of Swords, is being the Queen of Swords, and in the mind, and in her using the logic and understanding past difficulties and turning those into her strengths, and turning those into transformative power and all those kinds of things. This really is who she is. And so we don't want to, when we say that this is a right now a kind of a weakness, we don't want to negate that it's also the strength. We just need to pull it into check. So I quite like that that showed up as both, her core, sort of a core message card, as well as in the weakness, because that is definitely the case, that sense of, you can be both. You can have something be a strength, and if it gets askew, it can become a weakness. And then, so then I'm going to wrap this up. I know I'm getting longer than I really thought. For once, this was going to be a short little video, but but look, here we have another swords. So then this is her first action, and look how much forward action we have there. He's just like running in a blur up this rainbow of color, and you can just see that sense of just going for it. We get that same energy even here with the Fool card. See how they're both kind of in a blur? She's leaping, and he is just running up the things. We just get this beautiful sense of action. And even in with this core card, and the Eight of Wands is all about action too, right? And so we definitely have a message here that it's been great to be still, but it's time to act. It's time to pull your strengths together, pull all these plans that you've had in the back of your mind. And it doesn't mean you have to instantly do everything, but you have to do something. There's a manifestation that we want to pull, a real physical thing, not just more mental thinking, but a physical. It's time to actually do something. And so I think that, in a nutshell, a quick nutshell. So this is the spread that I've been really enjoying lately, and the kind of the positions and how I might go about doing a reading. And so I just thought I would share that. So I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.